Aloha, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining us on this joint committee with the Committees on Energy, Economic Development and Tourism and our good friends from the Committee on Government Operations. It's 3 o'clock in this Wednesday, March 16th in room 224. Before we begin, this meeting, including all audio and video of remote participants, is being streamed live on YouTube. You can find links to viewing options for all Senate meetings on the live and on-demand video page of the legislature's website. In the unlikely event that we hit any kind of technical turbulence and this hearing takes a terrible nosedive, the committee will reconvene to discuss any outstanding business. A public notice will be posted on the legislature's website. And for those of you who are going to be joining us remotely, all testifier audio will be muted and video disabled until shortly before it is your turn to testify. And members, we had 4 bills initially on today's agenda. You might have noticed that we did scratch out House Bill 1785 HD1 relating to tourism governance. Just need a little bit more breathing time for this, and we are anticipating rescheduling this bill at a later date. So the first bill we're going to be discussing this afternoon is House Bill 1801 HD1 relating to energy efficiency. First on our testifiers list is Kurt Otaguro from DAGS.
Good afternoon, Senator, Chair Wakai, Vice Chairs, members of the committee, Kurt Otaguro, State Comptroller. We appreciate the intent. Department stands on its written testimony with some comments and clarifications that we're happy to answer any questions on, Chair, at the appropriate time. But thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for joining us, Kurt. Chris Kinimaka, also from DAGS.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, and members of both committees. I'm here to support State Comptroller Otaguro to answer any questions that may arise on DAGS's testimony. Mahalo.
Oh, nice flowers as background, Chris. I kind of like Aloha Stadium better though. Scott Glenn, thank you for joining us, Chris. Scott Glenn from the State Energy Office.
Aloha, Chair Wakai and Chair Morawaki. Thank you for hearing this bill, and we submitted testimony in support. And I'd just like to note that with the volatility of oil prices, the anticipated increase in electric bills by 10% for Oahu and 20% for Maui County and Hawaii County, that means the state as well will have our electricity bills going up too. And energy efficiency, such as what's proposed in this bill, is a good way to insulate the state from the volatility of these prices. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Scott. And we have Ted Boland from Climate Protectors. Hi, Ted.
Thank you, Chair Wakai, Vice Chair Morawaki, and members of the committee. Ted Boland for the Climate Protectors Hawaii. I'll stand on my written testimony, but just say that I think this is an excellent bill, and it is needed both to save the taxpayers money and to avoid unnecessary greenhouse gas emissions, either through energy use or through using materials that are not low carbon footprint. And this bill would take a good step in both of those directions. To save us money. It just seems to me it makes good sense all around. So please pass this bill, and thank you for the opportunity to testify. I'm available if anybody has any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Ted. Members, that's all the testifiers I have that are joining us via Zoom or in person. Any questions of those who are with us?
I have a question.
Senator Misalito.
So for Mr. Otaguro or Chris, so I know one of the goals of this bill is to ensure that we implement cost-effective energy efficiency measures. But many times those measures are done with the installation of some, I don't know, equipment. So have you explored, if you do, because of the goal, the 30% reduction, have you explored how much we may need to spend in order to achieve that goal?
Thank you for the question, Senator Misalucha. That's one of DAGS's points, that energy efficiency can be achieved in multiple ways. As you referenced, and the state has already been doing this. It's not like the state hasn't done this.
Right.
The state has been doing efficiency efforts over the years, decades actually, light bulb changes, LED designs. And so the state is well on its way to be energy efficient. The point is, when you have older air conditioners, as an example, the large ones that need to be replaced, that takes CIP funding. that is not necessarily attached to the initiative here. But so those are the ways that we can achieve energy efficiency. A more draconian way, and people probably don't want to hear this, but a self-discipline within the state, we could easily cut down energy use just by reducing the number of refrigerators in all state facilities. As you know, and some of you have taken site visits, we have many, rightfully so. Every employee deserves the right to have their own home lunches and things like that. But to set a policy that if we could carry with this bill, to also limit that number and share would be absolutely a way to reduce it. We all know in our homes, that's the #1 energy consumption item. And there are a lot of other things that don't require technology, Senator, but these are ways that if we work collaboratively together, we can achieve it. I don't know if Public Works Administrator Chris can add on to that from her project side.
Mahalo, Kurt, but I think you hit most of the key points. Behavior modification was a big thing in our own building. A lot of education on people reserving all of, or just preserving all of our resources, not just electricity, but water, habit changes. And for us, whenever we go through with projects, whether they're new or renovations, we do push for the most energy efficient equipment and constructions that we can afford. So a lot of that is happening naturally already. But I think we hit the key points in areas. Mahalo.
Okay. Well, because I noticed there was no stipulation for any appropriation whatsoever. So I'm kind of wondering whether there's any hidden cost that I'm missing as we change the policy.
The hidden costs are really deferred maintenance on AC units. For example, we have one at your own facility as we speak to replace the state capitol's AC system, which is dated and is in need of replacement. But in that case, we already have some funding appropriated. But we have some planned maintenance, and then we have maintenance that is unplanned that breaks down. And so it's just a matter of being disciplined and for the legislature and the executive branch to work hand in hand to plan this out. It's not something that you can just do with one bill, right? You need to plan this because it takes money to save money. But as Chris said, it also takes some behavior changes. I know that we've also taken steps in central services. The other #1 bill obviously is air condition, and we need it to work and work comfortably, but we turn it on a little later in the morning and we turn it off a little early in the evening so that we don't work midnight. But for 2, 3, 5 people to be discomforted, we always get those complaints as well. So like I said, it's a difficult thing to balance because we do want employees to work in a comfortable environment, but at the same time, we have a larger area to cover and address with the state facilities in general. For those facilities that don't have.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. I thought that was an interesting idea, Kurt, about minimizing the number of
Refrigerators. I
There
know,
must
I
be
saw
like
that
100
too.
refrigerators in this building. The
Yes.
76 lawmakers and
And I'll be the most unpopular comptroller, Senator.
yeah, that would be bad. But then maybe everyone would just eat nuts and fruits every day for lunch. Nobody bring
And no cold
processed
water.
anything. Yeah, no cold water. Chair Moriwaki.
Yes, I have a question. Maybe it's also for Scott Glenn and for you, Comptroller. I noticed that you're getting the utility bills and usage data. Number one, how are you going to be able to get that? And number two, just getting the data, what are you going to do with it? So is that going to be the basis for having some, I don't know, quotas or some way to look at how much is reduced in terms of usage? And it's not in this bill, merely collecting the data. And number one, I know it's difficult to collect the data to begin with. So how are you managing that?
But the good news, Senator, is Hawai'i Electric has been a good partner in sharing that information, and they do provide that information by state facility. But you're correct. Some of our buildings are dated and are not metered accordingly. So it's difficult to pinpoint which department or division within that building is consuming what energy, right? And every operation is different. Some are a little longer, some are 24/7. So yes, Hawai'i Electric cannot, if it's not metered properly, cannot provide that level of granularity. But HECO does provide us some, and Central Services Division keeps track of that for the DAGS managed facilities. I don't know if Scott Glenn has any further comment. Scott's actually been collecting a lot of information statewide, which is very insightful. So he probably can share a lot more insight on who the energy consumption areas are that we should focus on.
Thank you. Scott.
Thanks, Kurt. Aloha, Chair. We have been collecting data, and as Kurt said, the Hawaiian Electric and KIUC have been good partners with sharing facility data. This would, I think, putting it in statute would ensure that it happens, and it's not just based on the goodwill of people who are in the spot at the time. And I think the other piece about this is by having the Energy Office make the data public, it provides information to the public about how we're doing. And we've had some discussions as well for the Energy Office, right? We currently have a proposal for building a data lake and making live data more accessible to the public for business analytics as well as government savings. And to the points like Kurt was saying earlier, this will give us better insight into demand management opportunities, where he is referring to, say, refrigerators or the behaviors of employees. That's all falls under demand management underneath the definition of energy efficiency measure in the bill. So all of these things are predicated on having visibility into patterns and uses, which rests on good data. And so we do see it as a linchpin, being able to ensure that there is continuous data being made available, and that it would be made available to the public as well, so the public can see how tax dollars are being spent.
In that regard, we have a goal, in 196 that's in this amendment, but rather than a goal, should there be something a little bit more, I'm going to say prescriptive, but something where you do have, that it's not only the collection of data, but that we are looking at reducing the usage or being more cost effective in terms of our use of energy. And I don't know if you want that in statute, but it seems that one part of it is collecting the data and having the data available. The other is what do you do with it to really increase our energy efficiency.
So on the goal itself, it comes from the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, which was set up several years ago. And Senator, I believe you were involved with it at the time. So this has been something kind of in the books, in people's minds in the energy world about energy efficiency. And so in some ways, this is formalizing what's already been an agreed upon target for people in the energy world. In terms of an enforceable, actionable thing, I think we would want to talk with DAG some more about that, as well as the other state agencies that manage facilities. One of the values of collecting the data, right, is then being able to do really data-informed decision-making, and really be able to set some targets based on what we get for the data and what we see as viable options. And I understand there's been some concerns about the different types of energy efficiency measures that might be out there, performance-based contracting, for example. There's strengths and weaknesses to those approaches, but I believe the way the bill is defining energy efficiency measure, it's a very broad idea of ways to save the state money. And many of the things that DAGs and other agencies are already doing fall within that. And so I think would be captured by whatever goal and accounting gets put in place.
So you're saying that this might be premature to put any kind of targets, because this is the first step in terms of getting the data to be able to analyze that.
Maybe in terms of actionable and enforceable versus a goal, but I see the comptroller unmuted. So Kurt, I defer to you if you have something to.
Yeah, just to add, Senator, and I think Public Works Administrator said it correctly, just making this information publicly available and posted by department, whatever we can, is incentive enough by department to make sure we conserve energy, right? It's kind of like a report card against peers. And obviously there are going to be operations like health with hospitals and prisons that they can't turn off the electricity, but there are other areas that absolutely, when you post publicly, there'll be a self-inflicted reason to conserve. And that's the start. Now, conserving kilowatt hours versus saving hard dollar funding money, right? Our electricity bill, I can save kilowatt hours, but I may not be saving the state money. So those are the areas when we were at ESCOs and other firms that we need to clearly define what those goals are going to be, because a lot of times the ESCO contracts define kilowatt savings as achievement, but our electricity bill goes up. And so what did I just accomplish, right? I'm saving up kilowatts, but not money. And so those are things that through this bill, working with the Energy Office, that we would like to work towards tightening it up a bit.
Thank you, Chair.
Sure.
No questions.
Senator Lucha.
So Kurt, is the Department of Education part of when we define state facilities, are they part of this equation?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, Scott, you collect the DOE facility information as well, right, statewide?
We
So-
do, yes.
So if the bill moves forward and it is implemented, will we be seeing a report per school, or is it like a aggregate?
Oh, no, it wouldn't be DOEs in one. Yeah, it'd be by school, because that's how it's metered. And so we'd be happy to work with the assistant superintendent in charge to make that happen as best we
Yes.
can.
Yeah, and I'm moving forward. I think when it comes to new facilities, that's really more a more frequent occurrence of where we can implement the cost savings as well as the newer technology versus it's rarer to have new buildings rather than, you know what I mean? There's more schools that are more frequently built than buildings. So I would imagine that there would be cost savings that can be generated from that.
Correct.
Senator, if I may add, for Department of Education, they already have a net zero target that they're supposed to achieve.
Mm.
And so energy efficiency measures make it easier for them to achieve that target.
That's good to know. Can you provide me a copy of that? I'd be happy. I would love to learn more about that. Thank you, Scott.
Will do.
Members, it was my mistake, but I forgot to mention one other person who was going to join us for this bill on Zoom, and that's Melissa Miyashiro from Blue Planet. I apologize, Melissa, for overlooking your presence today, but feel free to share your thoughts.
No problem. Thank you so much, Chair. We'll stand on our written testimony in strong support of this bill. We do see this as an important opportunity for the state to really lead by example. We have very ambitious climate goals as a state. If we hope to achieve a carbon negative economy by 2045, these are precisely the types of activities that we need to be taking now. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your patience with us, or with me, Melissa. Members, any further questions of those on testifying on HB 1801? No? Okay. We're going to move on to the next bill, that is House Bill 2255, HT1, relating to energy efficiency. On our testifiers list, we have Scott Glenn.
Aloha, Chair Wakai and Chair Morwaki. We stand on our testimony and support largely for the same reasons we just expressed on the previous bill. Thank you.
Members, we have 4 other individuals all in support: Trung Lam, Brian K. Aloha, Ted Boland, and Keith Neal. But Scott is the only one who is zoomed in or to testify. Any questions for Scott on 2255? Oh, good, solid bill. Thank you for joining us, Scott. We're going to move on to the next bill, the last bill on this agenda. That is House Bill 1637, HT1, relating to renewable energy. On our testifiers list, we have Dean Nishina from DCCA.
Aloha and good afternoon, Chair Wakai, Chair Moriwaki, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Dean Nishina. I'm with the Division of Consumer Advocacy. I believe you have our written testimony before you, supporting the intent of the measure, but offering some comments for your consideration. I am available for questions, if any. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Jay Griffin from the PUC.
Good afternoon, chairs, vice chairs, and members of the committees. You have our written testimony and support and available for any questions as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, Jay. Scott Glenn from the State Energy Office.
Aloha, chairs, vice chairs, members of the committee. We submitted testimony and support And we understand that there have been several amendments proposed for the bill, including a pilot and perhaps some language change that we're certainly open to ourselves and would be happy to work with the legislature on if you were considering any amendments for. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We have Tom Yamachika from the Tax Foundation.
Of the committee, this is Jade McMillan on behalf of the Tax Foundation of Hawaii. We have submitted written comments on the measure. We'll stand on our comments. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for joining us, Jade. We have Rocky Mold from Hawaii Solar Energy Association. Oh, Rocky, you are
Vice
muted.
Chair and members.
Oh, hey, no, you're good now.
Aloha, Chair Wakai, Chair Moriwaki, and Vice Chair and members of the committee. I'm Rocky Mold with the Hawaii Solar Energy Association. We stand on our written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Rocky. Members, that's all I have for testifiers. Any questions of those who have joined us this afternoon? Let me see. I had a question for the city, but they didn't join us. So I'm going to ask Scott Glenn, Energy Office. Scott, the city has a bunch of suggested amendments, but it was based on using just different language. They wanted to use payment instead of fee. Is that something that you can accept? That would be good for this bill?
Yes, Senator, that was one of the amendments I had in mind when testifying just now.
Okay. And another thing that the city wanted to do was to, tie this program to power purchase agreements. But isn't it correct that there are some, especially smaller solar farms that have a contract with HECO, not necessarily a PPA? So to provide maximum flexibility, instead of using PPA as the criteria, should we use energy contract instead?
Chair, that's a very good question. And you are correct that there are certain projects that do not have a PPA per se, but they do have an approval as part of something from the Public Utilities Commission. And I would frankly defer to the PUC on what might be the best term to describe that. Or if you'd like some follow-up, we could do some more homework and come back to you with some ideas.
Yeah, actually, I'm sorry, we have Jake Griffin. Jake, can I pose that same question to you?
Yes, you can, Senator. It's spot on. And I think in our work on Bill 39, the same topic had come up, particularly if you look at the feed-in tariff projects and the community renewable projects. I'd have to look at the term. We crafted language with Hawaiian Electric to expand the program to both approve PPAs. I think it was standard form contracts. I think the point is we could look to the language that was put into Bill 39 in the city and county of Honolulu that was agreed to there. And I think it would address your point that is accurate.
Okay. I think for now, we're just going to put contract, and then the next committee, you can put in the proper legalese into the bill. Members, any further questions of those who have joined us today? If not, we're going to take a brief recess prior to taking the vote. Thank you, everyone, for your patience. We're reconvening this joint committee on energy, economic development, and tourism, and our good friends from the Committee on Government Operations for decision-making on this 3 o'clock agenda. For House Bill 1801 HD1 relating to energy efficiency, the two chairs have conferred. We like the idea of the state being much more energy efficient in its buildings, but would like to take the goals out to give us an opportunity to just see where we are and make sure that we're progressing in the right direction, but not burden DAGs and other government entities with having that goals those goals in there and also provide for technical non-substantive amendments. Members, any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucia, I vote yes.
For Committee on Energy, Economic Development and Tourism, members were voting on HB 1801 HD1. Chair recommends pass with amendments. Senator Wakai votes aye. Senator Misalucia votes aye. Senator Lee.
Aye.
Senator Rivera. Senator Favela.
Amendment.
With 5 members present, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you.
The Government Operations Committee, same recommendation.
Okay, House Bill 1801, recommendation passed with amendments. Chair.
Votes aye.
Moriwaki, Vice Chair votes aye. Senator Chang. Senator Gabbard excused. Senator Favela. Recommendation adopted.
Thank you. On the next bill, House Bill 2255 HD1 had overwhelmingly positive testimony for these standards and rebates, and would like to move this measure out with just technical non-substantive amendments. Any discussion? If not, Senator Misalucia, I vote yes.
For HB 2255 HD1, Chair recommends pass with amendments. For all members present, are there any reservations? Any opposition? Chair, hearing none, your recommendation is adopted.
Same recommendation, House Bill 2255 with amendments. Chair votes aye. Vice Chair Dela Cruz.
House Bill 2255, recommendation passed with amendments. With 4 members present, any reservations, objections, recommendation adopted.
Thank you, members. We're on the last bill on this agenda, House Bill 1637 HD1. This is to help protect all of our friends who are developing energy projects that tie into our utilities, HECO as well as KIUC. Make sure that there's some level of stability and predictability versus what we saw last year, which was a surprising change in the property taxes for these energy developers. Would like to take into account the city's amendments that they suggested, but change a little bit of the city's suggested amendments based on what we heard from Scott Glenn and Jay Griffin this afternoon. So please bear with me just so I can make it clear for everyone that we're going to, in section 46, renewable energy projects in lieu payments, no longer fees, payments. The county may enact an ordinance and may amend from time to time to establish an opt-in by property tax owner or taxpayer program which allows an annual payment in lieu of real property taxes or land or improvements there on land that are actively used to produce or store renewable energy that is sold under a contract, not a PPA, under a contract to an energy utility, provided that section 1, the ordinance also exempts renewable energy projects from 100% of real property taxes. The payments may be determined by the county on a per megawatt nameplate AC capacity basis. Number 3, and any renewable energy project that sells electricity for a non-profit utility shall be exempt from the fee. And we're going to take out that entire section 4. Oh, and also take into HECO's suggested amendment of redoing the preamble for this measure. So those are the amendments offered and agreed to by the chairs. Any discussion? Oh, plus technical non-substantive amendments. Okay. If not, Senator Misalucia, I vote yes.
Members, we are voting on HB 1637 HD1. Chair recommends pass with amendments. Chair votes aye. For the remaining members, any reservations, any opposition? Hearing none, Chair recommendations adopted.
Thank you.
The Government Operations Committee, same recommendation. Chair votes aye.
Okay, House Bill 1637, recommendation passed with amendments. 4 members present, 1 excused. Any objections, any reservations, recommendation adopted.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.